Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 13, I believe we're on now, of UK League Chat. Just me and Tom again this week. We're just going to go through some of the games from week 2, give our predictions on week 3. Hopefully, Tom can improve on that a bit.
I mean, you know what? It's a start, yeah. But you just like Envision, yeah. You start off slow. You work your way back up.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Well, I'm Barrage then, just coming out of the blocks firing. Speaking of Barrage, then let's just get right into it. So the first game of week 2 was Barrage against M&M. Could have been maybe a bit of a closer one for Barrage. M&M is kind of one of the teams you'd expect to be going for that kind of fourth, maybe third, if they're pushing a bit further. Basically, another playoff contender. But for me, Barrage have looked even better in week 2. One thing I said in week 1 was that it was kind of their map play that got them the wins. They didn't necessarily come out swinging at the start of the matches, and here and there in lane and phase had a few ifs and buts. But then this week, like I think it was Ericsson, especially in lane. I don't remember. I think it was kind of Ericsson playing well and Chimera having a bit of an off game. He was ganked quite easily a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, well, it was Lucian Syndra, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
I think was it Chimera on the Lucian and Ericsson on the Syndra. So it's one of those where I think talking about the game a little bit, like he once Syndra gets going, it's quite hard. I think in the lane, especially when you've got quite I'm not saying non-traditional, but more of a carry focus mid laner in Lucian. It's hard then to get going when you've got kind of a fed Syndra against you. But
she just sets a press R and you're dead, basically.
Yeah, well, I was under the same impression as you. I thought that M&M were basically I'm going to call them like they are the line between you need to beat this side, I think, to get into playoffs. They're probably arguably, I would say, possibly the 4th best side, maybe, depending on how other teams can do. So they were the team where it's like if you could beat them, then possibly you could actually get into playoffs. I think they're actually a decent side, and I do agree with you. I think Barrage looked. I wouldn't say they looked better than what they did in the previous weeks, but I think that because they were against, I would say, arguably a better opponent, it was more impressive. And speaking of Ericsson, I'm going to make kind of I don't even think it's a brash statement to say. I think he's been one of the best performing mid laners in the UKLC outside of the 2 academy players. I could even, obviously I might get a bit flamed, but I could even say in terms of how he's stepped up for Barrage and how I expected him to, I think he's probably performed better than MagiFelix in the role which he's playing. That's not saying that Ericsson is better than MagiFelix at all, but what I'm saying is that in terms of the role which he seems to be facilitated for Barrage, he's executes it perfectly. And I guess you could say the other people are like Adept and even Special, but I would say Special isn't the be all and end all of Excel, where Adept kind of maybe is. But I just that those are like the top 4 which I'm seeing. And I would never have expected Ericsson, maybe because it is a loan. I thought, it's a loan from Nordavind, and I thought, is that really the right thing to do? It clearly is, because he's clearly a very good, a mechanically solid mid laner anyway. And he was consistent. I think he kind of, despite, I think it was like I've got it here, 6-0-7 on Syndra, he wasn't the main carry focus. It was, a lot of it was kind of Kievo, which was very interesting because it's something where you look at like the MVPs which Barrage have had, and it was from this game, it was Cybele, Flares, and then Kievo. It's unbelievable, really, seeing how you can kind of change the style which they are playing, and I think that's really, really good, and they've adapted it.
Yeah, I thought Cybele played really well as well. Like it seemed like any time M&M were like trying anything, Cybele was there, and Hado a lot of the time had roamed as well. And they just knew any gank or anything M&M were going to try, they just had an answer for it. And that's where I thought, especially like their early game, for me, had improved, where they were making those kind of movements from minute 1 rather than sort of get into mid to late game where they start moving around the map. They were just doing it straight away and just got like an instant lead. And yeah, they're looking really.
And I do think that M&M obviously we'll talk about what happened in any day too, but M&M still look like a side where I think they can challenge. I really like Kamara, I really do, but I do think he does need to step up a little bit in terms of like, and I think he will do, because I do think he will prove people wrong. But there was a little bit of a gap in this game. I don't know if that was just of how good actually Ericsson seems to be being, or how kind of bad Kamara was in that game. So it's one of those really. But I think that overall, M&M still look like a side who could potentially finish 4th, 5th at this point.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is that unlike last season, or even last season, there's only 4 playoff spots. So it's not like anybody can get a playoff spot unless you're relegated, or in Spring Split last season,
I think game and get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think his Spring Split as well. I think it was top 6 as well, wasn't it, out of 9? So there's a lot less contention for playoff spots right now, and so it makes you think, can a side like M&M push on, because they are seen as, I think, throughout the entire time the UKLC has been a thing, has been one of those underdog type teams, and this arguably, just off week 2 impressions anyway, could be the weakest out of the 3 iterations we've seen. But that doesn't mean that they can't still be a playoff team.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to game 2. So, game 2, Envision versus Enclave. Envision had to win at this point. And they did, but it didn't. I guess considering how weak Enclave have looked, it wasn't like too much to kind of get carried away with, should we say?
It felt like, and I don't know if this is because obviously when we had conversations with Prosper 2 weeks ago, but it does feel like they're not playing as a team as much. I did feel like this game could have been completely different depending on how Adept played. Because Adept played, I would say, incredibly well in that Enclave game, to a point where it kind of looked like if they didn't have him, they probably would have lost that game. I think as it went later on, like everybody else in Envision did step up. But if it wasn't for Adept in that mid and early game, I thought then it could have been game over from then anyway. It just feels like they've got that individual performance and there is that skill. You can still see that skill cap there. And I don't want to say it's like what Barrage was last season, because that was a lot worse. There was a lot more internal problems, it seemed, back there anyway. So it does seem like they are improving in terms of working together. I think it's just finding that style. And I think that's what gives a lot of teams that one-up right now. It's kind of like finding a style quickly, and some teams can find it straight away, and some teams can find it like take time and take weeks to do it. And that's the best thing about the double round robin, is that you can do that now. Like you're not, you've got to think, is that they would have Envision would have had one less game than what they would have had. Because if it was the the knockout tournament format. But Enclave just there was positives with Enclave, but there just doesn't seem to be enough. It's a shame.
Glimpses. Cleanse Baron Steel was probably his main highlight. I thought last week I didn't think that Air kind of looked like he was maybe was at kind of level below the rest of the mid laners, but there was even a point where he maybe it's like a thing, he just needs more time to get more comfortable and get used to it. But there was a point where he'd even like 1v1 got a trade kill with Adept when Adept was like fed as hell as Tristana, and I think he did it. We'll go on to it in game 2. He got another solo kill against his opposite mid laner as well. So there is glimpses of stuff from the Enclave team. We know obviously only Angel is a solid top laner as well. It's just how quickly they can actually start pulling it together a bit more. I think there are probably 2 clear bottom teams right now, maybe 3 in Phelan, because I'm a bit unsure on Phelan as a whole, but I feel like Enclave's the one where I kind of have the least faith in, and it is a shame because the organization itself is a really good organization. Like the content they put out is great, but there just doesn't. I just feel like maybe they've
they thought they were going to get something with this roster, and they've not quite got it. And maybe that's not an individual problem, because only Angel can be a good player on his day. It's just, I would say right now he hasn't had that standout performance, and that's all it could be. It could just be like one standout performance from one of these players, and then that could get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
But I think a loss like this would have actually hurt them, because I can imagine them of saying, especially like before the game, they might have been like, "Oh, we might not win it," but during that game, they did have chances to take that game. Like you, even with the Baron Steel, not really, because I feel like that just kind of delayed the game a little bit more at that point. But in the early game, especially, I felt like there was glimpses of like, okay, they could have done this, and they couldn't do that, and they couldn't execute it perfectly. And it's those little mistakes which I think are costing them, and hopefully they do get ironed out. But I think as the weeks go on, our team's going to allow Enclave to make those mistakes, which it's just time will tell. And I think next week for Enclave and for Demise is a huge week.
Yeah.
Well, this week coming anyway.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. When you're a team like that, trying to you've got to improve to catch up with everyone else, but then everyone else is trying to improve at the same time to pull away and look for the playoff spot. So you've kind of got to improve at a faster rate than everyone else, and it's just a case of whether or not they can do that. But yeah, show them at least more positives, I think, this week. And yeah,
there was definitely improvement. Like last week, in that first week, I it just looked horrible. It really did. I don't want to, but this week at least I was like in that Envision game.
Signs of life.
There's something, and that's good. You want to see, because we want to see every team. We want to see upsets happen. We want to see what happened with Schalke and G2 this week. You want to have those games, where you think, oh, can anybody really beat anybody at this point?
Well, we've got Enclave. They could be the UK Schalke this week. They're against
UK
XL.
Schalke.
Well, we'll come on to it.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to be a little bit tamer on my predictions, I think, for this week. I've got a little bit of catching up to do. Just a tad, but it's fine.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to that later on anyway. Okay. All right. The next game was Fnatic against Phelan. Phelan, one of the side you said just there, was maybe one of your kind of bottom three. And yeah, they didn't. I mean, Fnatic didn't look like they had to play particularly well to win. It was a pretty convincing win in the end.
It's bad when in these games anyway that Dragon Soul didn't really matter. And they didn't even need to get. They didn't. They had the option to probably get Dragon Soul at that point, but they were like, "No, we could just win. Just get one Baron and win." And it did feel just a bit too easy, but. Part of me is a bit like when you're playing these academy sides, I wonder if there is like the mentality for some teams anywhere. It's a bit like once they've got that lead and they've got that snowball going, do you just kind of mentally give up because you're automatically, are you thinking as a player? I'd be interested to ask somebody that, but it's like automatically as a player, do you think, well, they're an academy side now?
Does it matter? No one thought we'd win anyways.
Exactly, and I wonder if that does take a hold, because it did feel a little bit like that with Fiona. I'm not saying they gave up. I just felt like there wasn't
much give.
There was no time in that game where I was like, okay, they need to fight that, and they just kind of didn't. You know, even if they lost it all, it just felt like it was a slow, just take turrets, take dragons, maybe try and stop the Dragon Soul, try and stop the Baron, but it wasn't really anything where I was like, okay, this is. Oh, there's a potential of something happening here.
Yeah.
However, you do have to give a lot of credit to Xmati, who played a very, very good MF game. And overall, I thought that Xmati and Bravado were looking very, very strong, and especially in this game.
Yeah.
Bravado doing a lot more of the roaming because, once MF was, I think it was like 8-0-5 in the end or something like that. But once you get to that, you kind of just have to leave her in the side lane. She gets her MF ults, and he just farmed so much. And it was effective. It drew Phelan out when it needed to. He managed to not die when they tried to get him. And it eventually just, led to a victory, I thought. It was a really good performance from him.
And I didn't think that this game was like anything when we're, because this was obviously before Fnatic XL, and at this point we're still trying to work out, who's better from just the games against the non-academy sides, and I didn't think this was one to show that Fnatic were sort of a particularly high level, but then I suppose they didn't really have to. They didn't have to force anything. They didn't have to overdo it. They could just play it clean, play it slow, and with feeling not maybe giving too much back. They didn't have to kind of force the issue, I guess.
But then there was part of me where I was like, with Phelan, I was like, it wasn't this game where I got worried about with Phelan, because I was like, well, you've just lost to Fnatic. I feel like I don't know if this is just with the way that we've been taught with the UKLC essentially, but even when we saw the likes of Diabolus and M like contesting with these sides, we were just like, oh well, if they lose to their academy side, they lose to the academy sides. There's kind of that mentality, like what everybody else says, and that's what I'm saying. It might be interesting if it is in a player perspective, where it's just like, yeah, well, they lost to the academy side. Let's see how they do tomorrow or next week. And it was more the next game which kind of got me a bit more worried for Phelan.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on then. Last game of day 2 was Demise against XL. Demise, I didn't think looked that bad for like an academy versus non-academy. I thought they put up more of a fight than a lot of the other ones have. But
are you saying Demise or are you saying Kerberos? Like Kerberos on that GP. Like if you had just checked that top lane and just had like a camera just on that top lane and just focusing on Kerberos, you probably would have thought Demise were winning this game, because Kerberos played a great Gangplank game and saved them so many times. But yeah, I really enjoyed this game, to be fair, actually.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought I think Special was just like a level above Zoiran, and I think he's probably a level above a lot of the other mid laners. He is we kind of think him and MagiFelix. You've obviously got Ericsson and maybe Adept pushing their way up there, but we saw in this one he was like, well, I'm looking at it now, he ended up more than 120 CS ahead, even though his kind of kill score wasn't that high. He's just causes so many problems when it's, especially the kind of comp they drafted. They've got Gragas and Braum as well. You just can't go near him. As soon as someone knocks you up, you're done. And it's just...
And I think it's interesting as well, because on the casting they were talking about I think it was Orcs who was saying that he thinks that Special is the best mid laner in the UKLC over the likes of MagiFelix. I think Scoundrel said that MagiFelix, and it is a toss up between the two, I would say. I think that I was slightly more on MagiFelix side, because I didn't think Special actually played brilliantly last split, but however, the point was brought up to me in like conversations with a couple of people that actually Special wasn't the full-time mid laner for XL when they were doing these loads of different changes, where this is now Special full-time BTXL mid laner. So he's going to be a lot more consistent. It's quite hard to kind of chop and change, and surprise, XL aren't doing the 10-man roster. It seems they've got a first team and a second team, because that seems genuinely how it works out, unless you're like Cloud9 for some weird reason. But that's NA, so you could probably just do anything, at that point. But I think the Special looks brilliant, and like all this just built to this Fnatic BT mega match. However, I do have to say that I think that this was probably I was comparing this to the Envision game essentially, and I thought that this game was a bigger challenge for XL than the Envision game. So if I had to actually come up at the end of the day, I was like, I think Fnatic are probably the better side than XL, because I was like, XL were 3-0 at the time, but I felt like they kind of struggled with Envision for a little bit, and I felt that they did kind of struggle with Demise, despite being so far ahead. They kind of couldn't finish the job, and Kerberos was kind of just doing something to them, which I think it was like a little bit of kryptonite, but it just wasn't enough. But they obviously managed to get the victory there as well. So in a part of it, I was like, there are definitely like kinks in this XL armor, where I couldn't see much in that Fnatic, because the games were quite over before really any faults were being shown.
Yeah.
Obviously, what happened in the second day, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes, we will. All right, let's go on to day 2 then. The first game was Phelan against Envision. Kind of another big game, I guess, for Envision. After winning the first one, they had to but the first win, like we said, was against Enclave, so maybe wouldn't get the most credit for that. So they had to kind of try and push on and take it to day 2. And Jesus Christ, Adept on Irelia was scary.
Yes.
You could kind of say another, like, pretty much solo carry. Except, I guess, on this, I think Shikari had a big role in this one as well. There were a couple of fights.
Shikari has... to say I'm disappointed is a bit of an overstatement, I think, but it's the only word I can think of right now. But understated, I think there's something which I can maybe say a little bit less than disappointed. It says I just don't think he's shown me what we've seen for years, essentially. And that could just be because, in all honesty, this is a team of very good players, but, isn't what you may say a championship winning side with a championship winning organization. There isn't that aura around them at this point. And there's no offense to Envision, but you look at like the teams which Shikari's been on, for example, these are teams which are kind of bred to win in organizations. And so it's interesting to see him in this kind of underdog role, considering how successful him and Prosper have been, and even you look at like Yusa as well, who's kind of been heralded as one of the best, at least like in the LVP UKLC kind of era, like one of the best ADCs outside of the academies.
Yeah.
So, but this game was, I thought, very, very good for Envision, in a game which they needed to go 2-0 this week, really, because it was the confidence boost, and it was kind of like, we went 0-2, but they didn't change much. They just played better. I don't think they actually played as like a team still, but they just played to their strengths, which was individually. And you look at and that's why they had like Adept on the Aurelia was a smart choice, because Aurelia is genuinely kind of a carry orientated solo champion. There's not much in Aurelia's build which I could say works well initially in team fights, but maybe in the late game with some of the stuns and stuff. But really, Aurelia is there to kind of get yourself fed. And that worked, and champions like that are worked, and Shikari, and they all played their part as well, I think it was.
Yeah, definitely. I thought in this game, I didn't think Phelan looked that bad either. I thought they looked better than a 1-3 team in this match. I think it was around like 23, 24 minutes. They even had a slight lead at that point, but then it was, at the same time, Adept was already fed by then, and they couldn't really deal with him. And then once, Shikari got going with his heals, there was just literally nothing they could do about it. I think the game was kind of over at that point.
I think the question mark, like the little question mark pings, which I'm worrying about right now, is Jack Spectrum Raisins a little bit. Now I just don't think there's been anything where I've been like, right, okay, this has been standout for them. I may be completely wrong, and I haven't gone back and viewed every single game, but they seem okay. But I think there's actually quite a lot of good duos which seem to be emerging in this league. Actually, a lot more better performing duos than what I expected to.
Yeah.
You look at Hado and Kievo, for example. I did have my doubts with Kievo, but Hado and Kievo together seem to be working really well. Obviously, you've got Yusa and Prosper. You've got the two Academy bot lanes, which seem to be doing very well. And I'm still kind of wondering, like, where am I ranking Jack Spectrum and Raisins out of this duo? But however, I do think that they will improve, but I can't see them. I agree that 1 and 3 is kind of a bit harsh, because I do think they have performed okay, but I don't see a team above them which I would put above them in the leaderboards, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I think they are better right now than Enclave, but I may not even say that they will be better than Demise, in my opinion, with how Demise actually performed. I felt these past 2 games. And then that worries me a little bit more, because I'm like, this is a side which I said should get more wins, but I've clearly kind of ranked them above someone who's 0-4. So it's interesting, and and I just that's the best thing. Like I said, with this round robin format, is we actually do get like a thing when when it gets to halfway through the season, we get more of a clearer space. We get more of a clearer view of who's really good and who's not, and who's the weak links in each team.
Yeah, we'll see. You mentioned about who is better at feeling a demise. I don't think either of them, unless they turn it around, they don't look likely for playoffs at least. But I think I think they're the two you are kind of looking to see who is the one that's, I guess, trying to just out of playoffs. You've kind of got it in. I see it in like a kind of a few different groups. You've got right now, kind of, I'd say Excel, Fnatic, and probably Barrage as a clear top three. M&M and Envision, and then Feeling, Demise, and then probably Enclave below it. But we'll see. They've got Feeling and Demise against each other this week, which will be exciting to see out of those. It's kind
I think that's a big game. That's a momentum game, I think, as well.
And there's a couple of those kind of big matches at the bottom this week to try and not only work out which of them is maybe the worst out of all of them, but then also, like you say, it's a key game. If anyone gets one win, momentum, it's going to help a lot, you'd expect. Anyway, so speaking of Demise, the game after was Barrage against Demise. Another one where you can say Demise put up a fight. You could also say that it was Kerberos putting up a fight, and he was causing a lot of problems on that Yorick. They almost, maybe they weren't that close. They were like a whole turret away, but they almost went for the back door as well with a Dragdar TP and kind of lost the game straight after in the end. But at least they were close, and I'm sure from this, given that Barrage is one of the stronger teams so far, they might at least take a bit of confidence from that to know that they can cause a lot of problems, even for some of the better teams.
And then this is what I kind of wanted to say, is the fact that you look at Demise and you look at Demise versus Phelan, and you kind of realise that Phelan, they played Fnatic Rising, but then they did play Envision, which given how the games are, you could have maybe seen them of getting a victory, depending on how Envision played. Whereas then Demise played Barrage, and they also played BT as well. So they were what you consider, what we've just said, two very, very top tier playoff sides at this point. And Demise didn't look horrible in both of those games, and whether that be just through Kerberos or not, that is at least that's a symbol for the team to say, right, well, clearly this is working at this point, so let's work on that, or let's work on the other weaknesses. There's something to build on at least, and that's why I'm actually quite interested to see how Demise do as a whole. Barrage, though, were, I think, the best. They were the better side. And I think Haddo played a very, very good game. He got, I believe, he got MVP at the end of it. There's not many times I would say that a support gets given the MVP unless they've played very, very well. Unless you're like Kasing, I guess, because I feel like because Kasing is such a big name, and there's that skill cap, I think, between everybody else at this point, even still. But I just think that all this made me do was maybe think, Barrage actually are a solid side, because I have come out of this and been like, Demise do look decent despite being 0-4. Maybe the best 0-4 UKLC side we've had. I think there's them, Barrage last season, maybe Phelan went 0-4 at some point, and then Excel, not Excel, Enclave. So maybe the best worst loser, or the worst loser, the best. That one, the best loser. And I do think that might change. And I've got some, I would say spice predictions, but I'm predicting some good things. I mean, I did predict them to beat Excel. So maybe that's just me trying to back myself up. They're actually really good. They're really, really good.
Double down.
So I remember when I saw how Kerberos was playing, I think I just got rose-tinted glasses on suddenly, because I was like, they're going to do this. Even though they really had no chance. Because Kerberos, even though Kerberos was playing great, the game was basically over and they were just prolonging it. But I was just like, wait, is this happening? No, it's not. But, can hope,
Well, you think, though, that they must be a tricky team to kind of play against, really, because with the focus on Kerberos in that split push, it's not going to be something you generally prepare for. If 8 out of the other 9 teams aren't just relying on that, then
Mhm.
when you're going in scrims and you're doing your preparation, are you going to bother that much to prepare solely against a split push team? Because it's only out of 16 games you're going to play, it's only 2 of them where they're going to use that anyway. So it's one of those things. It might be just if anything awkward for people to play against. I think that's maybe why, especially XL. Not trying to sound out of order, they probably got their sights on things like EU Masters, and if they're going to be if they're going to be thinking about teams in particular, they'll be probably looking at Fnatic and then some teams in other leagues. They're not going to be thinking, well, we're against Demise, we know their split push is going to be good. Let's watch who's Kerberos been playing. I don't think they'll be, that going to that level of detail. So I think Demise, if they, I think they can cause problems with it.
And I did feel like it was. I doubt it, but it's just the feeling that I got. I felt that both Fnatic and BTXL just didn't care about day one. Like they had that sense of just like, let's just get through day one, let's win no matter what. Doesn't have to be particularly great. Like, because even though Fnatic kind of destroyed feeling to a point, it wasn't really like oh my god, this was Fnatic's really good dominating performance. It was just going to happen kind of thing, and it felt a little bit like that with XL as well. And I did feel like maybe are they just preparing for the Fnatic XL game, because that's the game which, as you had said, they probably would have thought and been like, right, that is the game we need to focus on. It doesn't matter if we lose essentially to Demise or to Phelan, because if we beat Fnatic, and we've properly prepared for that, then we know that we can beat them in, say, playoffs or something like that.
And if you'd think XL probably did focus on Fnatic, and we'll see how that paid off as well. But yeah, before that big heavyweight game, we also had Enclave against M&M. This is another one where I'd mentioned about Air looking a bit better. I've got it in my notes. It was against Mumus. He got a 1v1 kill. I guess Mumus wasn't particularly fed or anything, but again, kind of signs of life. Cleanse did not have a very good game. Yeah,
Cleanse just doesn't. I don't. So I'm a terrible League of Legends player. So I don't like flaming a player, but it's hard when you can see it. And I think that obviously when you pick a player, you know that they're generally going to be of a certain level. And sometimes it isn't the player's performance, but it's how they work in certain teams. But I believe this is Cleanse's first team, I believe, in the UKLC. I might be wrong, but I believe he's relatively new. I know he's in solo queue and everything like that. But there does seem a little bit of just inexperience there, or a lack of kind of knowledge in a pro mindset, or a semi-pro mindset anyway. Maybe that is something which will develop, because maybe it's just little nuances which you know in solo queue, but you kind of have to change, especially being a jungler. I think is very different at this point between solo queue and between in pro play. I would say, from my completely lack of experience actually playing, really, I would say that jungle is probably one of the hardest roles to translate from solo queue to professional play, because it's a lot more team orientated, and obviously the communication's a lot more there than what it would be in solo queue, just naturally. So you are more dependent to kind of be everywhere and to communicate a lot more. Because when you're just in the jungle in solo queue, you're just ganking when you can and when you feel like it's correct, or when there's pings or a little bit of communication. But when you're transitioning that to actual pro play, there's communication between actually where you should be going and where you shouldn't be going, and vice versa. So he might get better. If he doesn't, it is worrying, I think, because it seems that jungle does seem to be quite a. I thought that jungle wasn't actually going to be that important until I've not important, but because of where the jungle changes happened, and the level difference, which I believe, are they going into the next patch? I believe on this week.
I'm not sure.
So whether if there isn't, there's a little bit of a level discrepancy changes, which is good. But I just felt like he's lacking in something at this point. And in week 3, it might change. It is only 4 games. I believe that, like I said, he's not played many semi-professional games anyway, if any. So he's only had 4 games at that point. So it's just learning. And yeah, just Eminem kind of, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I feel like just Eminem kind of outclassed them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, apart from what happened with Mummus, but I think that can happen. And if it's going to happen anywhere, unfortunately, probably top lane's not the best place for it to happen right now. Yeah, Eminem just looked decent at this point, and I struggle to see who Enclave can beat with the way that they're performing right now.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, I'm not sure the draft even helped Cleanse either. I mean, he's playing Elise, where you're kind of early game focus and then drop off later on, so you've got to be making early ganks. And then they've, their solo lanes, Gangplank and Cassiopeia. They're more kind of scaling picks. Senna, you could probably say, is more of a scaling pick as well. So it's kind of at the same time, what did he have many options where he could have ganked and made the early impact? Maybe not.
I had a feeling, and this could have been either one or two things. It could have been like a draft issue, or it could have been that maybe they wanted something where Cleanser was comfortable on.
Yeah.
And he might have been a very comfortable Elise player, and he might have said, look, I can play this pick, which is then a little bit of an issue, because it's like, oh, let's play this because I'm good at it, instead of let's play this because it works with the comp which we've got. But sometimes you've got to do that. You've got to kind of get them on a signature champion, or get them on something which they feel that they're strong at, because sometimes just being strong at a champion can actually, swing a game in their favour. But yeah, I agree with you. It did feel a bit confusing, but I think that they still had opportunities to utilize that, despite being a bit of a weird draft. Because I wouldn't say, like, no offense to Eminem, they're not like a Fnatic or a BT at this point, or even like a Barrage, or particularly maybe even an Envision. So they could have maybe still got a victory, but and vice versa. I feel like if it was maybe a Fnatic, a BT, an Envision, or a Barrage who had that Enclave draft against Eminem, I would still have liked to. I probably would have still seen more of a fight from that game.
Yeah, true. And one thing I saw today as well, I think I saw on Twitter. I don't know what the rules are like about making changes, a few weeks in. But ex-Enclave jungler Wyzek, I think, might be available now as well. He was playing. So Kiao, who he had as a guest before, is a. For anyone listening that doesn't know, is coaching in Poland for Pride.
Is it Dark Passage?
Pride. No, Dark Passage is
Pride.
Turkish, I think. Yeah, so he's coaching Pride, and I saw some stuff on Twitter from him today that Wyzek is being subbed out for a different jungler. So you never know. Maybe a emergency loan to Enclave, get an extra jungler back.
If it worked for Barrage, I'd love to see Wyzek back. Yeah. I thought Wyzek was in the half a split I saw him for Enclave. I thought he was a very, very decent player, but and I don't think, in terms of, the only thing might be if there's the issue with the import rule.
Yeah, true.
Because Cleanser is British, Only Angel's British. Airs, I don't think Air is an import. I believe Sweden. Darking, I think it's Austrian. I think he even might be duo. Because I know he's from Denmark, but I think he might be dual nationality.
Right.
Or one of the three would be dual nationality anyway. So there could be an issue with that. So if they were going to do that, they might have to make 2 changes, unless Wyzek's dual nationality. They'll know. But it would be nice to see him back in, definitely.
Could be a lifeline.
But we do have to also probably shout out Soft, who actually played very well for Eminem. I do feel like we have to give Eminem a bit of credit, because I do feel like we just kind of like slated Enclave a little bit. But yeah, Eminem did play very well. Soft played great. Nice to see Chimera get a victory, and they're 1-1. Puts them 2-2 right now in the table. They probably would have liked to have been 3-1. But I don't think 2-2 is that bad of a position to be in, considering where everybody else is in the table.
Well, they're in contention for playoffs, which is where they would hope to be right now, I'd imagine.
Exactly, and it just takes a couple of good weeks just to up that.
Yeah. Okay, moving on then. The last game was the one that everyone was waiting for. to see finally
Big one.
who was the stronger team. We thought we'd see them hash it out. I was expecting a close game. It was, split predictions. BTXL, they just smashed them. Well,
yeah,
and it was kind of weird because it wasn't even like a huge kill score or anything, but they just dominated them.
BT played it perfectly to a point where they Fnatic. I don't know if it was. It looked very obvious. So again, my lack of actual in-game league knowledge was what all BT need to do is just smash them early, because that is a massive scaling Fnatic Rising lineup right there, and they did. They absolutely just destroyed them early to a point where I believe that then for was about 10 minutes or so there might have not been a kill after the initial onslaught, because the damage had already been done. Not Enclave, XL already knew that, and to say that there was a specific lane which won it for BT would be a bit unfair, I think. But I do think that Kasing and Deadly look very, very, very good together. To a point where they did make Xmati and Bravado look probably weaker than what they actually are. And that is no mean feat to do that. Deadly looks great. And I know, obviously, from previous guests which I've had on, and even conversations which I've had just on Twitter, people were unsure on if Deadly can be a really, really good player, because for Giants, he was known as the facilitator. He was known as the person who, yes, Giants got, I think, second in EU Masters, but he wasn't the guy which did it. Mm-hmm. He was the person who, the late game insurance, essentially. If all goes wrong, then we've got Deadly who can maybe do something. Is what the feeling was. He feels completely different. It does feel like they've kind of said to him, we want you and Kasing to be kind of quite a big focus point of this XL roster. It's very mid and bot centric, it seems. Mm-hmm. And you've got kind of Sendo, who seems just being very consistent right now. Taxa's being very consistent, but it does seem that it's mid special. Deadly, Kasing, you're the people we want you to put all our resources in, and it's working.
Yeah. And I think it's a wake-up call for Fnatic as well. I mean...
Yeah, I don't think they expected to lose this badly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a massive stomp, like you said, because the scoreline wasn't ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But if it's one of those where if you didn't watch the game, you wouldn't understand kind of how
you think it might be kind of close, yeah. If you say 9 kills to 3, that doesn't sound like they got smashed.
But there was no time in that game where I didn't feel that Enclave weren't really in control.
They were just it was just putting pressure everywhere. I think it's maybe even a case of perhaps even against a weaker team might have just taken fights that Fnatic maybe Fnatic showed a bit too much respect, because perhaps being one of the better teams, they know where they can and can't contest. And maybe because of that, they actually gave up too much. They thought, well, we know we're behind, we know we'll lose this fight, so we're not going to take it, and they just let XL basically have everything, and XL took it all.
But one thing you have to admire is Fnatic's confidence. At the end, when it got to the point where traditionally, if the game was very close, Fnatic actually would have probably been outscaling them. I wonder if Fnatic just thought, well, we've just got to go for this. But the TP from the back, they're really deep ward. They just went in, got obliterated, and lost the game. And I think it kind of was a point of, I don't think Fnatic kind of thought, this is going to be it for us. This is our turnaround. But more of a, well, you never know. We could get 3 kills, and it could swing us back in, or we lose. And it happened, that they just lost. I don't think this makes me think that Fnatic are going to be this Fnatic for me then just puts me down at the second team right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me think, Barrage or Envision, or any other team that's kind of better than them. It just made me think, well, BT finally kind of got the just desserts which they needed, because they because BT have always lost to them. Essentially, there's no easy way to say that. Like BT have generally, it's from when the UKLC has been going on, it's generally been the case of BT are good, but Fnatic, that's the one for everybody else, and they've not been proven wrong until now. This is the only time where I could say that BT looked like the stronger side, and a lot of people's power rankings seem to be actually working out pretty well.
All right, let's finish up with some predictions for this week then.
Yes.
Tough week for Barrage, you should imagine. This will be the kind of the big test for them to see if they can actually keep up. Obviously, they're now on the scoreboard they are ahead of Fnatic, but after this week that may change. So first game of day one, we've got XL against Barrage. I'm going for XL. I don't think that's much of a surprise.
So I was, I don't know how much of this I could say, but I was, after obviously I sent the tweet from the last episode, basically apologising to Barrage. Jeff did tweet me, and we had a little bit of a conversation because he was basically saying how essentially the team hadn't actually known each other that long, which surprised me, that they were actually one of the last to scrim,
right.
And that they were proving a lot. He also mentioned that this was the week he was most looking forward to. Like out of always, like week 2's good. Week 2 will be good. Yeah, hopefully we get 2-0. But this week 3 is the week which he's very, very excited for, and particularly this BT game. Yeah. If I was doing better on predictions, I might have said Barrage, but I do feel like I'm at this catch 22, was it catch 2020 or whatever it is?
22, I think.
22, there we go. Because at the point where every time I seem to not predict Barrage, I lose. But every time I don't pick an academy team, I also lose. So could I just predict a draw and get a result out of that? Probably not. I'm going to go BT because purely because of how good they looked against Fnatic. I think if Fnatic had won, because of how BT had played in the previous games, I actually could have maybe considered saying Barrage for this one. But BT do look like the best side. However, there is complacency. You never know. They could get complacent after beating Fnatic and be like, well, do we really need to try against Barrage? And that could cost them. However, I think that the 4-0 standings might, hopefully say, they should probably practice against them. But Barrage. No, BTXL.
Okay, and then after that we've got M&M against Phelan.
M&M? I'm gonna go M&M.
I've got M&M, but I wasn't like so sure on it. I thought Phelan didn't look that bad this week, but then trying to being realistic, I thought M&M. I'd give it like 60-40, 65-35.
Well,
like
M&M are out Phelan in Phelan because they have 3 former second place tower tournament, third place tower tournament winners. So you've got to give it to M&M. I think M&M's just a bit of a better side. I still think there's a little bit of issues, but clearly those synergy benefits of having those 3 Phelan players would help. And so eventually synergy's all just going to come together anyway, but I just think that M&M just look like a stronger side right now. However, it would not surprise me if Phelan said that, but I'm going M&M.
Then after that, we've got 04 versus 04, Demise against Enclave.
Wow.
I'm going for Demise because they've shown a bit more of a fight for me.
Yeah.
And I think they've been closer to actually picking up a win. They were a turret and a Nexus away really last week. So I'm going Demise. I'd be, considering they're on the same scoreline, I would still actually be surprised if Enclave won. I'd hope to see more improvement from Enclave, like we did in week 2. But I think for Demise for me still on this one.
This is going to be very boring, because I've gone for Demise as well. Because what I predicted them to beat XL last week, no. But I just think that, like we've both said, Demise look a lot better than actually what their 04 scoreline is. They've had a few hard games. And so this game should be one which I would realistically, going off the games which I've seen, they should realistically win, despite being on the same scoreline.
Yeah.
And could hopefully potentially propel them to maybe, attempt to fight for a playoffs, but it might even be a bit too late for that. But just to maybe get a respectable lead and see what happens. But yeah, I'm trying to think of something good to say against Enclave. They could win this. There we go. Next.
They're in the match, so therefore they can win.
Wait. I feel so bad because I really like Enclave as an organization as well. I really do. And I feel like I actually really hope that they don't win this now, because I'm going to have to apologize to my second UKLC team in the space of 3 weeks. But yeah, no, Demise. It has to be.
Yeah, on the plus side, they did improve for week 2, so as long as they can keep improving, they should win a match eventually.
Oh, it's harsh. It is. It's harsh to say.
Anyway, last game of day 1, we've got Fnatic against Envision. Are you going for a spicy one? I think every
What's a spicy one?
Envision,
that's the question.
Envision's a spicy one, isn't it?
Is it?
I'm going. I want to win. I want to win the predictions, so I'm going Fnatic. But
so I don't know if going for Fnatic is going for Envision is spicy, because if you actually look at how Envision did against BT, and if they could just get more synergy together, you could arguably see Envision winning this, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's the script. You've got Shikari and Prosper against Fnatic,
True, yeah.
right?
I didn't think of that actually.
Like, you've got to think of this. If there's going to be one time they're going to be fully motivated, it is against Fnatic. With all that being said, Fnatic are probably still going to win. Do I go with my head, or do I go with the script? That's the question. Because I need to get points at this point, I'm gonna go Envision, because I have this feeling that I do think that there's just a feeling that I think if they can just improve, and they're going to have more and more scrim time as it goes along. The problem isn't mechanical issues, which is always a good thing. It is just working well and getting probably some of those least consistent players, maybe like Nolte, for example, getting them more consistent, because on their good day they are great. I think that Shikari is better than Pride.
Yeah.
I still kind of don't understand, why Fnatic didn't really push to get Shikari back, because I just think he's a great top laner. It will be decided, though, in the bot lane, I think, as well, because I do think Adept and Magifelix could... I think Adept could potentially not lose too much to Magifelix.
If he plays like last week, you never know.
Exactly. And so it does kind of, for me, go into what's going to happen in the bot lane. This is Envision. I'm going to go Envision because I do need points. I need some points.
Fair enough. I think it would be probably won or lost in the jungle. I think that's where I see the biggest skill difference. If you just go in sort of head-to-head matchup, I think Dan has looked better than Nolte. So we'll see if Nolte has a good game. If Adept can play like last week, then there's
if the script is written correctly.
Yeah. There's been no change to the script since you saw it. Then Envision could take a win. You never know. All right then. First game of day 2, we've got Phelan against Demise, and when I was doing my prep, I thought Phelan, because I thought Phelan didn't play too bad last week. But then as we were kind of talking about how Demise had given teams problems last week, mainly with Kerberos, it kind of got me thinking that with Phelan, I think a lot of the good parts of their performances usually come from Bear Tree in the top lane, and I think if they, for games they want to win, they'll need him grouping up in team fights, because he will usually get a bit of a lead, and you kind of need him to bring that into the team fights. If he does that, that's going to give Kerberos more chance to split push, as we know he likes to. and now I'm kind of thinking maybe Feeling is the wrong choice, and maybe I should go for Demise. I think stylistically it might be a good matchup for Demise.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you which one to go for because it's your choice. At the end of the day, free agency is a blissful thing to have. You've also got to look at the X factor, and that's Monkeys as well, because Monkeys hasn't. I would say we haven't seen the best Monkeys, which we know he can potentially be, and so that is a person who, if can step up as well. That's two really good players alongside some players who could potentially grow and become even better. So, but then Phelan are a team which likes to do a lot of upsets. I feel like for the entirety of UKLC's tenure, Phelan have always been a side where nobody has rated them, and yet they've come out and they've always been a side where at the end of the split, you would probably say, wow, actually, for what I expected, Phelan have done good, especially in summer. And even in spring, Phelan weren't the best side, but I think a lot of people expected them to get relegated, and they didn't. And so when you look at it like that, you think, well, Phelan with Pat as well, there's a lot of good things about Phelan, which they have this underdog mentality right from the get go.
Yeah.
But go on. I'm not going to say which one I'm picking.
Demise then. Demise I'm going for.
Oh,
I'm changing my. I've changed my notes now.
So I need to basically when I'm thinking about these predictions, I should just say, actually, I think BT are terrible. Right? And just plant it in your head.
Inception.
Yeah. No, I think I'm gonna go with Demise as well. I think it's going to be quite comfortable, despite what I've said about Phelan. Purely because I just think Demise are very good, and this is a big week for Demise. Think of it, 2-0 is huge,
And I think they got a very realistic chance to do it as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's two of the sides which you would arguably say they should be beating. But then again, you have a look at what Phelan and Enclave, and they could probably say the same thing about Demise anyway.
Yeah,
but it's a massive week for them.
Huge, and then it is a small league. After this week, you're kind of almost halfway through as well. So if there's a week to turn it around, then
definitely.
This is a chance, I think. Okay, game 2, Enclave XL. XL. Surprise.
You said you were going to have some spicy predictions.
Yes,
here.
I think Demise is kind of spicy. I've got another one.
How's Demise spicy?
It is a bit. They've got.
Go on, predict Enclave. Go on.
No, I don't succumb to peer pressure.
I'm going BT as well. I think, as you were probably going to say, then BT just look like one of the best sides.
Yeah, I don't think not much to say about that one really. Barrage against Fnatic.
Interesting. It could be an interesting game.
I'm going for Barrage.
Ooh.
This is my spicy one.
Wait, you were slating me about Envision over Fnatic. You were like, but I'm just saying I'm going to say Barrage are going to beat Fnatic.
On the scoreboard they're ahead of Fnatic right now. And
no.
But
why? Why then? Go on.
I just think they caused. Well, I don't know. I just fancy them for it. I don't really know what to say. They're playing together as a team really well. I think Fnatic, from their loss from XL, they could give them a kick up the arse, and they could just come and smash both their games this week, or might knock their confidence a bit, might give the rest a bit of a chance. I think
it's actually a very difficult run for looking at it actually. So I don't look at these beforehand. Envision and Barrage straight after a BTXL loss is quite a difficult blow, really, for them.
They
would have wanted someone, I think, a little bit easier. To be fair,
I think if there's a week and they're going to lose to a non-academy team, it's going to be this week. You would imagine.
I can't predict Fnatic going at 0-2. So I will go for Barrage. No, I will go for Fnatic.
It's locked in.
I will go for Fnatic. Right. I've just realised that I've predicted a Barrage 0-2 again.
Which means they're going 2-0.
There you go. They should probably just hope that I just you say that they're going to go 0-17, 0-14. No, but Yeah, I think Fnatic. I don't. Very similar to what you're actually going to say there. I think that for me, the loss to Envision will give them a kick up the arse.
Yeah.
Because I think they'll lose to BT, and they might be like, "Well, yeah, we've lost to BT. You know, we've got a few weeks. We've got playoffs as well. We can beat them then."
Mm-hmm.
And then they lose to Envision, and then they're like, "Oh no, right." And then they'll, and then I think that's when it'll be like, "Yeah, this is it."
All right. Well, I'm just giving, I'm going for a bit of a dodgy one. I'll give you a chance to catch up some points. We've got to keep it interesting.
Oh, this is it. This is when Barrage win. Like, this is it.
Yeah. And then last game of week 3, we've got Envision against M&M. I'm going for Envision. If they can improve more like they did week 2, on paper they're the better. The better team anyway on paper. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a huge surprise. I wouldn't rule out a chance for M&M. If they step up as well. Could always take it, but I think Envision more likely for me.
I agree. I think they went 2-0 last week, and I think that they could just easily get better. So I think that it's going to be Envision as well. Here's a little bit of a question though before we get to the end. Right? What is more likely, Fnatic Rising to go 0-2 or Barrage to go 2-0?
Fnatic 0-2, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Then Barrage beating BT.
It's basically saying what's more likely, Barrage beating XL or Envision.
Or Fnatic losing to Envision and Barrage.
Wait, and then who?
No, then BT have got Enclave, so like.
Yeah. Well, no, but didn't you said Fnatic 0-2 or Barrage 2-0? So the Enclave doesn't. Oh no, wait. Yeah, the Enclave doesn't matter. Does it?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, that's what more likely 2-0 for Barrage.
Imagine Barrage 6-0. Like, just picture that. It's gonna be like Spring Split, like last season. Yet again, when we were like, "Oh, Diablos is pretty good."
Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll drop off now. This is the week they'll drop off, and then it just doesn't happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen again, I don't think.
No, I would agree. I just thought it was an interesting thing, considering you've got a lot of. It's actually a really interesting week overall because you've got a lot of bottom teams facing each other and a lot of top teams facing each other, and so it's really going to shape up.
There's not many matches that pretty much like every match is important for the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Already.
And even for example, like an Enclave BT match could have major implications for how things go because Enclave could find a way to beat BT, and then other sides could be like, well, no offense, but if they found a way to beat BT, then is that actually the kink in their armor?
Everyone's going to fancy their chances as well.
Yeah, and it provides that confidence. There's loads of really, really crucial games, and like I would say last week there were some games where I was a bit like, nah. For example, like M&M Barrage, because at that point, Barrage was 2-0 and M&M were 1-1. So I was like, yeah, but are Barrage that good? And M&M seems so. Where now, like seeing a Barrage game actually means a lot more because they've got 4-0 on their title.
Definitely. So big week to look forward to, I think.
Yeah, huge. Can't wait to be correct. 8-0. I said 8. We'll go for 8 and 8.
Nice.
Then have we got 2 different? I think we've got the exact same week one.
Day one we've got one difference. I've got Fnatic, you've got Envision.
Oh yeah.
And then we've got and then we got one difference each day. Yeah. And in case you're wondering, right now our guess predictions you're only one behind, so you got a chance.
Well, what's the total for the viewers / listeners at home?
Right now, I'm 14 out of 16 for the first 2 weeks.
That is impressive. To be fair,
not bad. Helped from the 8 out of 8 last week.
Yeah.
You're 10 out of 16, but still, you're right more often than you're wrong. And you're one behind.
It's that side differential, I should have gone for red side. That's it.
Yeah, and you're one behind our guest prediction. So Megalodontus, who stepped in last week, he had everything the same as my predictions except for XL Fnatic. which is
Yeah.
which is why he got
So he got
7.
7 out of 8. Do you know who the guest is going to be this week?
I think we'll get him on again. He's kindly offered to step in. Basically, if we don't have a guest on the podcast, he can help us out with predictions. So we'll see.
Beautiful.
I don't have him just yet. We'll see.
Then again, should I say beautiful, because he did beat me last week?
Yeah.
So yeah. But I've heard, if you've not known, I believe that he was it either Enclaves or Barrages?
Yeah, I think it was Barrage.
Barrages. So I feel like it's a bit cheating if we do give him the vote.
It's like insider trading or something. Yeah, he'll know.
Yeah, exactly. Suddenly, if we see like a 2-0 Barrage, we're like, oh no, what does he know? Sweeto.
Yeah. Call into question the competitive integrity of our competition.
Yeah. Have to rule it.
Let's see then. Let's see what he says. All right then. That pretty much brings the episode to a close. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, you can follow, and you can just keep up to date with what both of us are up to with our Twitters. They're on the screen, and with the NineTeeSix Twitter as well at NineTeeSix. And yeah, thanks for listening.